We are live. I'm Andy Andrews. You've joined us on the Blue Plate Special from lovely downtown. We're in the financial district, Orange Beach. We're in the city limits of Orange Beach, Alabama, and it's still pretty hot here. I talked to somebody up, some of our Yankee friends, and they said that it had been 47 degrees in Ohio. And it's like, we had a cool snap last week and it went to 91. And so we're still, but there is no hurricane headed this way so far. Should I not said anything? I mean, we need a break from those. We're tired of being the bullseye. So just need a break. Dana Kilpatrick, how are you doing? Thank you for sharing, and happy Tuesday, everybody. We actually are going to be doing a kind of a continuation. Last Thursday's show that we did for the Wisdom Harbor edition, which Thursdays, Tuesdays today, we're broadcasting to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to X, to YouTube, and to wisdomharbor.com. Hey, Christy Woods, hello. And then on Thursdays, we only broadcast to wisdomharbor.com, which we would love to have you on Thursdays. And if you're not with us on Thursdays, come on. It's $27 a year for Wisdom Harbor, and that doesn't include just these Thursday little goofy shows that we do here. But we were last Thursday talking to the Wisdom Harbor people, and we had put out a call for things that you found yourself explaining to an adult that you could not believe that you had to explain this to an adult. And we got to talking about those last Thursday, and we had some funny ones. And so we just kind of put out the word and said, have you got any of these things? Anything that you think of that where you look at somebody and go, seriously? Seriously? I mean, I'm seriously fixing to have to tell you this? Those kind of things. And so we got back a whole bunch of them. Hey, Martin. Goober says, hey. Benny Dalzell. Hey, buddy. I'm so glad you're here with us. And Donna Massey Banks. You like the shirt? Yep. This is a Veterans, Books for Veterans shirt that we do here. We do these... What is it they call? But we do books, and it's for the Veterans Administration, and so people can add that to their purchase, or just do a regular donation to it. Every $12 gets a hardback book to the Veterans Administration, or you just buy a T-shirt, and a book goes to the Veterans Administration in your name. So Carol Nettles, we say that in the afternoon you're visiting your sister, and your sister, oh, I see now. I'm trying to read this, Alabama born, but now you live in Warner Robins, Georgia. We have visiting here, we have in the studio today, Marcy Cross Taylor. How are you doing? In the studio today, we have some friends of mine from Goshen, Indiana, and Shipshewana, Indiana, and there are 19 married couples here that are all on a tour, and it's an anniversary tour. And all 19 of these couples have been married 52 years. 1952 yearsers, and they had already been everywhere else in their lives, and so they said, for 52, we'll do Andy Andrews in Orange Beach, for 52. And we've done I mean, they've gone somewhere, I'm sure, every year. They've been to the Statue of Liberty. They've been to the Grand Canyon. They've seen the Pacific Ocean. They've probably been to Hawaii on the 25 or something. I don't know what. They've been to Alaska. They've been to Texas. And after a while, it's just like, 50, they did something special. 51, they're like, hey, we still like each other. And then 52 said, we got to do something. We got to do something. And somebody said, Orange Beach, Alabama. And everybody else said, where? And I said, well, Paul and Jolene know this guy who lives in Orange Beach, Alabama. And he's a writer. If he was any good at it, he could be called an author, but he's just a writer. And so for 52, they said, okay, there's nothing left to do. We'll just go see Andy. We'll go see Paul's friend. So I'm glad you guys are here. But congratulations on 52. Good grief. None of you ladies look like you could have been married 52 years. You guys look like you could be married 52 years, but the ladies don't. So anyway, J.C. Buck from Gulfport, Mississippi. Oh, all right. Let's talk here. This is we think we've got some pretty funny ones that people have had to explain to an adult. Okay, and so the question was, what are you surprised? What did you say? I can't believe that I'm having to explain this to an adult. One lady said, I had to explain that if you have found a dog and making a sign, the dog should say, found dog, not lost dog. So here's somebody that found a dog and he was going to put up a lost dog poster. And this one was like, no, that ain't how you do it. I can't believe I had to explain that. How about this? A coworker of mine recently quit without notice. A few weeks later, she wasn't liking her new job much and said she wanted to come back to the store. She could not comprehend the concept of being ineligible for rehire. She just could not comprehend it. And this lady says, if you quit without notice, they're not going to take you back. And she just couldn't comprehend that. It's amazing to me what people can't comprehend about work and doing some, Here's a lady who worked at Office Depot and had to explain to a customer why he could not make photocopies of a $20 bill. This one, this is one of those kind of things that you see on TV. You see that on TV, and if somebody put it in a movie, you'd go, that's stupid. Nobody's going to do that. But then you see on the news at night, people are doing this kind of stuff. So somebody said they could not believe they were having to explain to an adult that you should not put hard liquor in your baby's formula bottle. I guess you would. And I'm hoping that person wasn't having to explain it to their son or daughter. But, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the way people deal with kids and you go, I can't believe this.
Oh, it'll help them sleep.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Okay, somebody could not believe they had to explain that power tools need to be turned on in order to work. That sounds like an old joke, actually. There's an old joke about two Auburn guys that wanted to go into the firewood cutting business, and they had some old trees, old logs down, and they were wanting to go into that firewood business. And so they went to the hardware store and they bought a chainsaw. And the guy said, that chainsaw, you can cut 2 cords in a day. And so they went out, they came back, and they said, this is not cutting, and they said, the guy said, well, how much you get? He said, we got a pile of wood, but it's not 2 cords. He said, well, let me see. Let me see this thing. So he reached down and the Auburn guy said, what's that sound? Now people would, do you guys understand why we pick on Auburn people around here? See, they're from Indiana. They understand why we pick on Auburn people. I mean, Auburn people, why can't you guys understand it? Now, see, here's the thing about some Auburn people. Some Auburn people, I'm clearly kidding, but some Auburn people are going to get mad about it. They'll get mad about it. And it's just like, I think back about, now my sister's watching this show, but I think back about how I used to terrorize my sister and just like pick at her and pick at her and pick at her and pick at her just to get her to explode, just to get, that kind of, are you okay, little baby? You about to cry? Let go like that, about to cry? Don't cry for me, baby, don't cry. She just go nuts. And I'm kind of, I don't even know what I was talking about, but I'm drawn to that kind of behavior, I think. And what was I even talking about?
The chainsaw and Auburn people.
Oh, that's right. Auburn people. Auburn people. So I enjoy seeing if I can get one of them to cut loose on me, And they will. And even when I'm saying I like to get them to cut loose on me, I like to enrage them. I like to just tease them. I don't mean anything that I'm saying, and I just like to tease. Even though I say that, they'll still get mad. That just kills me. Dana Kilpatrick, diehard fans for any team get their feathers ruffled. Well, I guess that's true. Okay. Here's a guy who had to explain to his wife that pickles were made of cucumbers. She did not believe him, and he says, I'm still not sure she does. Okay, so I can't believe I had to explain that retirement is something you actually have to prepare for. Magic money does not create itself in a fund you never started. So that sounds like a great person to be talking to Dave Ramsey. I can hear Dave Ramsey saying, retirement is not a right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, baby doll. I can just hear, and you say, okay, well, then what is retirement, Dave? So, all right. I mean, you can just see, that's hilarious to me. But a friend of mine in high school was traveling to Berlin. She said she might just take the airlift that was built in World War II to get there. Don't take the Berlin airlift. Oh, God. Okay, somebody can't believe they had to explain to an adult that our sun is a star. So that was one of the things that made me say out loud, seriously? Seriously? How about this one? Had to explain to my college son that to make pasta, you have to boil the water. Oh, I loved this one. Somebody said I had to explain to a guy that Michigan wasn't the capital of Detroit and that Jerusalem actually exists, and it is Jerusalem, not Jew-Ursulum. It's not Jew-Ursulum. My former neighbor was and is still the dumbest person I've ever met. You can see that, though. Somebody going, oh, where the Jews are? Jerusalem. That's so funny. That's funny. I'm a manufacturing engineer. Now, this one, I said a little prayer when I got this one. I'm a manufacturing engineer. On Friday, I had to explain to a 33-year-old engineering technician what a nut, bolt, and washer were. This is just the icing on her grossly incompetent cake, and I have been logging these incidents with the intent of firing her next Monday. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean for you to think about it that hard. But I guess if you have an engineering technician that doesn't know the difference in a nut and washer and a bolt, future's limited there. I love this. There's a girl I used to work with who did not know submarines actually existed. So I love people like that. Yeah, I love running into people because you run into them every now and then. Here's one. I had to explain to somebody in college that 3 seconds of dish soap was not necessary for each plate you wash, as he would turn the dish soap upside down and squeeze for 1, 2, 3, 4 each plate. Okay. Had to explain to somebody. I had to be the one to tell my friend when she was 25 years old that the vodka she loved so much had calories. Yes, alcohol has calories. She was so shocked and said, "What? I thought since it was clear like water, it didn't have any calories." My college roommate actually believed that milk comes from a cow the same color as you see it in the carton. So obviously her logic went, real milk is not white. She could explain even how the milk was dyed white at the factory. It took us a while to convince her, but when we did convince her, it was like the worst day in her life. Oh my gosh. I had to explain to an adult that you can't use an electric blanket to dry your bed sheets. Oh, a friend of mine phoned his mother on his first week away at college to ask her how to cook eggs in a casserole. He was having trouble working the shells in, and he wasn't kidding. That's what they say. He wasn't kidding. All right, this one kills me. This is probably the most complex one, I guess. And it was probably, this is not a stupid person. This is like a mistake, but it's a mistake that this company didn't catch for a long time. It says, when we finally figured out where we were losing money, we had to explain that fact to an accounting assistant. We had to explain to an accounting assistant the fact that 6 inches isn't 0.6 of a foot. She had been slowly, unknowingly overcharging our company for materials for years. Because she was using the metric system when they're, 1 foot is not 0.6 of a foot. That's unbelievable. Okay, somebody had to explain that oil isn't easier to get in the Middle East just because you only have to drill through sand. I had to explain to my husband that raisins are just dried grapes. He had never known. You have to use water to cook rice in a pan. We call that rehydrating the rice. I wonder if we could maybe you can buy rehydrated rice. Or how about rehydrated beef jerky? That would be in the meat department, wouldn't it? Rehydrated. Get some rehydrated water. Or how about dehydrated water for your camping? You go camping and carry, because water is very heavy to carry. And so if you had some dehydrated water, and then when you got where you're going, you just add water to your dehydrated water, and there you go. I mean, I think that solves a lot of hiking problems. Okay, to a teenager, somebody had to explain that pasta does not grow on trees. Do you know there was a and Matt, you could probably find this and provide a link on our show notes. But there was a newsreel years ago, and it was an April Fool's joke that some news company like CBS, ABC, or NBC, somebody had done a film of the spaghetti harvest in Italy. And it showed women picking this dried pasta out of these trees, and that went out on April 1st as a real thing. And so...
Is that from, would that be like 1957? Does that sound about right? Yep, I found it.
You found it? All right, we'll put the thing. Can you play it?
I don't think I can pipe it through to the system, just...
Okay.
But I can add it to the show notes.
All right, we'll add it to the show notes. And for you guys in the studio, we'll play it for you after the show, so you can see the spaghetti harvest. Here's a guy who says, I work with this guy who thinks that when you hear average precipitation in the U.S., like different regions, the average precipitation, he believes that some sort of quota, that is some sort of quota that nature is obliged to meet. For example, if it's a particularly dry summer, he thinks it'll just rain a lot in the last few days before summer ends. People, you think they can't be that dumb, but that's somebody's logical mind just going off the rails, because I mean, their average precipitation, that's somebody taking something so literally, just looking past the word average and saying that's it. I mean, people in places get these reputations, Seattle, what do you think? What kind of weather do you think of when you think of Seattle? Rain, because they say it always rains in Seattle. So what kind of weather do you think of when you think of Mobile, Alabama? I don't know, sunny, rainy, I don't know. Nobody really talks about it. But for the past 8 years, Mobile, Alabama has gotten more yearly rainfall than Seattle. And so, I guess that people can think their way into something that is incorrect, but it's logical. I guess. Okay, here's the last one, and I saved my favorite for last. An office coworker came in flustered one morning. When she finally spoke to me, she said, "So there's 100 seconds in a minute, right?" I explained to her that no, there were 60 seconds in a minute. She argued the fact with me for several minutes until I took her to our break room that has a big analog clock on the wall. I made her stand there and count out the 60 while she watched the second hand. When she hit 60, she turned to me as if her heart had been broken and actually asked, "But where did the other 40 seconds go?" I'm telling you. See, I love people like that. I love running into people like that. People that you can tell them something. They're just predetermined. They'll believe anything. I always think in the Bible, Doubting Thomas, he got the name Doubting Thomas. I'll bet you anything it's because he was so gullible. I'll bet you anything. I'll bet you anything when he became one of the disciples, they would pick on him because they'd go, "Look out, Thomas," and he'd go, "Ah, ah," and they say, "Oh, there was nothing. And they would tell him things. They would tell him, Thomas, we just caught 50 fish. And he would go, really? No, Thomas, we didn't catch anything. We ain't even been fishing. And he just got teased for being so gullible for so long that when he walked in and they said, hey, we've seen Jesus. And that's Jesus right there. And there Thomas goes, nah, not this time. You're not going to get me again. I'm not going to believe it until I feel the holes in his hand and put my hand inside. And then turn around and go, well, there he is. Okay. But I'll bet you Thomas was kind of gullible. I love gullible people. I love to be able to, like, I've learned to time it on my family. But to me, you can tell a joke or you can have people experience a joke. And here's what I'm saying. And I have much more fun having people experience a joke. It's like I went in after church the other day and my son's girlfriend was there, Emily, and Polly was in the kitchen, and I said, wow, I can't, you don't get asked about midgets very often, but I got asked about one today. That ain't even what they call them, is it? They don't call them midgets anymore. And Polly said, no, they're supposed to be little people. And I said, oh, okay, well, the sheriff's deputy that's always at church, he came up and asked me if I had seen a midget. And I said, like, are you serious? He said, yeah. Have you seen a midget here? Because there was evidently a midget that was being a fortune teller at the Floribama the night before. And he was telling people's fortune and then caused some kind of ruckus and got away, but the police were after him and had put out an all-points bulletin for him that said small, medium, at large. See, I love doing that with people and go, oh, God. So you didn't really have anybody ask you about a midget? No, I didn't have anybody. So you didn't really talk to the sheriff's deputy? No, I didn't really talk to him. Well, did you go to church? Yeah, I went to church. But I love doing that. And then when somebody bites on something like that, your next statement is, did you know that the word gullible is the only word in the English language not in Webster's dictionary? And they're liable to bite on that because they're just predisposed to believe everything you say. I mean, you find somebody like that and you can stare up at the sky. And if you see a contrail, from a jet, I mean, you got somebody there. I mean, this is great with kids, but there's adults that'll fall for this too. Is you look up at the contrail and go, huh? Gonna rain in the next 6 or 7 hours. And they'll look up and go, really? Yeah, that's how the Indians used to tell it was gonna rain. And you'll get out of most people, you get a, huh? Hey, no. But some people will just go right on. And if you find somebody like that, you can just pick on them. Like every time they come in your house, you can just tell them something that's not true. And then when they go, really? No, that's not true. we have a friend who is, Polly, my wife's favorite book of all time is To Kill a Mockingbird. And so we have a friend who comes over sometimes, and she and Polly are book people, and the friend is, she kind of thinks it's a big deal that I write books, and so she listens to me sometimes talk about it. And so one day she came, they were talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, and I said, hey, you know what really happened with that book, don't you? And thank God, my wife just like turned right around because she knew something's fixing to be, and she knew that if she went, don't do this, I would go, don't stop me from, so she knew this was fixing to happen. And so she just turns and walks right out because I can't help myself sometimes. And she knew, and she wanted it done to her friend anyway. So I said, the real thing happened with that book when she was writing it, don't you? And I said, no. I said, well, have you been to one of the plays they do in Monroeville? I mean, it's unbelievable. Every spring the town puts on a play, and the first half of it is outside, and the second half is inside the courthouse that it actually happened at. And so, but that thing is so great. If you ever get a chance to see it, you ought to go see it. But, and that's, of course, where Harper Lee is from. Her real name's Nell Harper, by the way. And, Polly had breakfast with her at Hardee's. Because when we got married, the friend of ours that lived in the condo next to us, when we got married, they were from Monroeville, and Polly told them that her favorite book was To Kill a Mockingbird, and they said, really? Nell Harper? And Polly goes, you know her? They go, Nell? Sure, yeah. We have breakfast with her every Tuesday at Hardee's. So Polly went to Hardee's with Charles Raymond and Nikki Floyd in Monroeville, Alabama, and had breakfast with Harper Lee and got her first edition book signed. But anyway, I was going to tell you what with the writing, when Harper Lee was writing the book, you always write with a title that maybe you thought of, or maybe it's a placeholder, or it's something that you think is going to be a great title, and you're going to argue it with the publisher, because the publisher is the one who gets to decide really what the name of the book is. And so for the entire time that Harper Lee was writing the book, she had in her mind it was being called To Kill a Blue Jay. And then there's the dad, the attorney in the movie, Atticus, and it turned out to be Finch, Atticus Finch, but she had written it as Atticus Mockingbird. And so when the publisher's reading the thing, the publisher was really insistent on changing, instead of To Kill a Blue Jay, it would be To Kill a Mockingbird. They just thought that was more dramatic, and so they pushed that. And when she acquiesced to it, then they couldn't keep the Atticus Mockingbird, and they didn't like Blue Jay at all, so they chose Finch, and that's how To Kill a Blue Jay with Atticus Mockingbird became what we know as To Kill a Mockingbird with Atticus Finch. And she said, really? I never knew that. I said, yeah, I just made it up, like right there on the spot. She said, what? I said, yeah, Polly really met Harper Lee and everything, but all that stuff about Mockingbird, Finch, Blue Jay, nah, I just made that up to entertain you. But you could say, hey, Burt Reynolds is coming over. And she'd go, really? No, he died 10 years ago. She'd do that right after. And so every time she comes over, I have to do this. Chandra Danner had to explain, can't say their name, but they wanted to know what happened to the hour that was lost in daylight savings. Like, where does it go? I'm going to tell you one more story. And then we'll go. But this is along the same lines. Austin, our oldest son. That's Austin. Our oldest son, when he was like 7 or 8 years old, maybe, he was old enough to be, reasoning and stuff, but still, Austin was small, so he was still in a booster seat in the back seat. And it was the day that we had sprang forward in the spring, and Mom and Adam were already at church, and so Austin and I are going down our street. He's behind me in the seat over here. And I said, well, it's going to be interesting to see who didn't set their clocks, when we get to church. We'll see some people that forgot. And he said, yeah, I always think this really is the animals that I feel sorry for. And I'm driving along, and I said, no, what? He said, well, just think about being an animal, and you're out there in the dark, and then you think it's supposed to get light, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't. It's just like an hour later. Can't you imagine how scary that would be? And I said, buddy, that's us. We're the ones messing with the clocks. That's us. And he said, Dad, I don't think you understand what I'm talking about. And at that point, I just pulled off the side of the road, put the car in park, and leaned over the back seat. I said, okay, well, explain it to me. And he started going a little bit, then he went, never mind, come on, we're going to be late for church. Well, he was like 8, maybe. He's 24, about to be 25, and we hadn't let him forget it. There's 2 times a year that we can get him with something. 2 times a year. It comes seldom enough that we don't let him off the mat. But the very first time he knew it was going to be something that was going to last his lifetime, that's a story we'd be telling forever about Austin, is a week later, turkey season opened in Alabama. And it opens on a Saturday morning, used to anyway. And so we get to the hunting camp, and I've already talked to Martis, who is the caretaker and like a granddaddy to the boys. And so I've already talked to him. And so the boys, as soon as we got to the camp, I'd put the truck in park, and they'd be out running for Martis and, wanting to say hey to him. And so when I get out and I'm following along with them, they're running for Martis. And Martis steps out on the porch, and they hug him and say, hey, buddy, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good, Andy. How you doing? Yeah, I'm doing great. I said, how's the weather looking good for tomorrow? He said, yeah, it's looking good. It's looking like it's good hunting weather. Let me just put it like that. It's looking like it's good hunting weather. But, we just got problems, I think. And the boys got quiet and still. And I said, like, what kind of problems? He said, well, the turkey's not gobbling. It's supposed to be gobbling this time of year. The temperature's right, the weather's right. He said, but I've been out the past 3 mornings, and they ain't gobbling. And I said, what you reckon's wrong? He said, got to be something like that extra hour of darkness got them messed up. And Austin just fell on the floor. And so every half year since then, every half year, we were on a Gaither cruise, and Austin like 19 years old or 20 years old. We're on a Gaither cruise, and when you cross over the date line there in Canada or Alaska, you lose an hour, and they make sure they're telling you set your watch tag down, all of this, and so that day, Buddy Green, who is the guy who wrote the music for Mary Did You Know, he wrote half the song. He wrote the music for Mary Did You Know, and so Buddy knew the story, and so Buddy was standing over to the rail and said, Austin, come here. Austin comes over and says, hey, Mr. Buddy. I said, hey, how are you doing? He said, look with me here. Have you seen anything today? Have you seen any whales? at all? Austin said, I haven't. I hadn't been looking really, but I haven't seen any. And Buddy said, well, I've been looking and I hadn't seen any. I've been standing here for a couple of hours and I hadn't seen any. Now, why are they not coming up? Austin goes, I don't know. Buddy says, you know they got to breathe sometimes. Why? I mean, are they just not here? Austin goes, I don't know. Buddy says, I bet it has something to do with that extra hour of darkness. And Austin's like, oh, you know, hey, I'm 20 years old, but we don't let him up off the mat. All right, that's it for the Blue Plate Special Day. We'll see you. Well, we won't see you Thursday, will we? I'm gonna be out of town. Where are you gonna be? I might ought to just like get on something live and tell you. Oh, let me tell you this before we go. Let me tell you why last week was a historic week for Wisdom Harbor. It was a historic week for me. It was a historic week for the music industry. It was a historic week for all of us who love Jimmy Yeary. Jimmy Yeary, he's like my little brother, Austin Adams' uncle. He's one of the greatest songwriters in the world today. And he is a great daddy, a great husband, and he's a contributor to Wisdom Harbor. He actually teaches guitar lessons on Wisdom Harbor. And so schools all over the country are, you know, getting on Wisdom Harbor. It's like a school can get on Wisdom Harbor for $27 per teacher per year. And so you get this whole huge resource. Well, anyway, Jimmy is teaching guitar lessons on Wisdom Harbor. Well, on Monday, a song he wrote went to #1 on the country charts. It's called She's Somebody's Daughter. Jimmy wrote that song and went to #1 on the country charts. And the exact same day, a song he wrote called Outrun the Rain went #1 on the bluegrass charts. 2 different songs, 2 different #1s, same day. I think that's the 15th and 16th #1s that Jimmy has written. So, unbelievable. Congratulations, Jimmy, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.